of a piece of wood, and how the piece of wood was turned into a real little boy. A man called Geppetto made a puppet out of the piece of wood. As soon as Geppetto had made the puppet, it began to talk. Then it began to walk. "You can walk and talk just like a real little boy," said Geppetto. He called the puppet Pinocchio. Geppetto had always wanted a little boy of his own. "I wish you could be a real boy, Pinocchio." Geppetto told Pinocchio he had to go to school, but Pinocchio was a naughty little puppet. He did not want to go to school, so he ran away into the wood. He met a fairy in the wood. The fairy said, "Geppetto told you to go to school. Did you go?" Pinocchio told a lie. He told the fairy he had gone to school. As soon as he told the lie, his nose got longer and longer. "You naughty little puppet," said the fairy. "If you tell lies, your nose will get longer and longer." Pinocchio began to cry, so the fairy made his nose little again. "I want to be good," said Pinocchio. "Can you make me into a real little boy?" "Yes," said the fairy. "I can make you into a real boy, but you must go back home and be a good boy. Good boys do as they are told. They go to school and they do not tell lies." "I will be a good boy," said Pinocchio, and off he went. Pinocchio ran all the way home as fast as he could. But when he got there, Geppetto was not at home. He had gone back to look for Pinocchio. "I must go to look for Geppetto," said Pinocchio, and off he went. He walked for days and days, but it was no good. Geppetto could not be found. Then Pinocchio met some naughty boys. They took him to Toyland, where they played and played all day long. Then one day, all the naughty boys in Toyland began to turn into donkeys. Pinocchio turned into a donkey too. Pinocchio ran away. He ran for days and days. At last, he got to the sea and jumped in the water. Pinocchio turned into a puppet again. But there was a huge fish in the sea. Pinocchio could not get away, and the fish swallowed him in just one bite. Pinocchio found Geppetto inside the fish too. The fish had swallowed him when Geppetto was looking for Pinocchio. Pinocchio was so happy he had found Geppetto at last. "I will save you," Pinocchio told Geppetto. "I will get you out of here." Pinocchio made a huge fire out of all the pieces of wood he found in the fish. The fire made the fish sneeze and sneeze and sneeze. At last, the fish sneezed Geppetto and Pinocchio back out into the sea. Pinocchio pulled Geppetto out of the water and took him all the way home. Pinocchio got Geppetto into bed and took care of him. Soon Geppetto was well again. The next day, Pinocchio went back to school, just as the fairy had told him he must. Then one day the fairy came to Geppetto's home. "You are a good little puppet," she told Pinocchio. "You saved Geppetto and took care of him. You did as I told you and you went to school. And so I will turn you into a real little boy." Pinocchio went to find Geppetto. "Look at me," he said. "I am a real boy at last." And he began to jump for joy. Geppetto jumped for joy too. Geppetto was so happy he began to cry. "At last I have my wish. I have a little boy of my own." And that is the story of how a piece of wood became a real little boy. And that is the story of how a piece of wood became a real little boy.